everyone. Thanks for checking out this week's Deck Tech here on Commander's Brew. Thanks for coming by the YouTube page. If you like it, go down, hit subscribe. It really helps us out. If you want to help out even more, you can go check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/commandersbrew. And why don't you go over and watch an episode of Battle of the Brews? You'll soon be able to see us playing this exact deck on the show. So keep an eye out for that. But let's get into this week's Deck Tech. Sean, who's the commander?
Yarok, the Desecrated.
Yarok
the block. We all know Yarok. I would like to call it Yurok. Because
I want Yarok. Right?
I want Yarok. Yeah, for sure. You have to say that when you cast it. It costs you. It's the Sultai commander. It's so the Sultai color identity for commanders is becoming disgusting value engines.
Yeah, that's what Sultai is now. Disgusting value engines. It's simple as that.
Yeah, but we're not just going pure value. No, Andy, you put this together and you got a secret game plan going on. Are we allowed to spoil that?
Yeah, let's let everyone know what we're doing here. Yes, we're talking about a lot of ETB triggers. Yes, we're talking about creatures entering the battlefield. But and yes, we're talking about getting a ton of disgusting value from Yarok and all the triggers. But really, secretly, what we're trying to do here is mill ourselves and or draw ourselves out and win with a Jace, a Wielder of Secrets, or Lab Maniac. Classic win condition for a deck like this. So, let's start talking about all the various disgusting, valuable, neat moves.
Working on a
neat
move.
Okay, so the first neat move right off the bat is one that I want you to keep in mind throughout the show. Sean, you do a great job of keeping track of this sort of thing.
I love it.
The first card that's going to pair with so many cards in our deck is Wild Pair. This enchantment's going to hit the battlefield, and then for the rest of the game, whenever we cast a card from our hand, a creature from our hand, we're going to be able to search our library for a creature card that has the same total power toughness, and because of Yarok, we're going to be able to do that twice. So almost every card has at least one or two matches in this deck, so most likely you're going to be able to get the two off of it that you want. Obviously, once you've milled a bunch and you've played a bunch, that might shorten. You might not be able to get the one, but Wild Pair is going to still give you so much value the first couple times you play creatures off of it. It's going to be well worth it, and it's going to be able to ramp your game up in that way, right? You're going to be able to actually play a card that helps win, go get the other card that partners with it and helps win, and then get even another one after that. So Wild Pair is great. We're going to actually show you specifically which cards we're talking about in a second, but Wild Pair is very, very powerful and an awesome and just a super fun commandery way to win the game.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some things that make tokens. That's one of the things we're going to do because Yarok will make double the tokens.
Mm-hmm.
How about Ishkanah Graph Widow? Remember this spider from Eldritch Moon? Do you remember that?
I do.
So now we're going to get, instead of getting 3 spiders if we have Delirium, we're going to get 6 spiders. And getting Delirium in a deck that mills yourself a lot is quite easy.
Pretty easy.
This is a format where we put, now, and I know that you did put mostly creatures in your deck, but there are enough enchantments, instant sorceries, that getting that Delirium, it's basically a land and a creature are gimmies. Every deck's going to get one of those. And then you just get 2 other types of cards in there. No problem.
No problem at all. What's the next one?
Ooh, Avenger of Zendikar. This is one of the landfall kings, the elemental that brings plants equal to the number of lands. And I'll just remind you, all those little creatures that bring lands with that tutor up lands. For example, a Solemn Simulacrum. You're putting 2 lands at a time onto the battlefield. So Avenger hits. Sometimes we have Avenger early in the game. We're like, I only got 5 lands and I got a lot of mana rocks. It's but now you probably have 8 or 9 lands, and the landfall triggers are also doubled. So our plants, of which we have many doubled, are getting bigger by +1/+1 doubled. So this is just ridiculous. Let's add to that Izoni Thousand-Eyed. We're milling ourselves, so our undergrowth count gets pretty big. So the number of black and green insects tokens we get is going to be large and then doubled. And this is an important sack outlet too, because we can sack a creature, gain a life, and draw a card. That's just a great mana sink. Drawing cards, we love drawing cards because it gets us to the bottom, but this is also a way to kind of just force those last draws, or the last draw, that wins us the game if we have a Lab Maniac or a Jace going.
That's true.
I love it.
That is so true. And just also in general, all these tokens providing us defense while we get this sort of mill thing going on, or in a pinch, actually, you can just win a game with your tokens. Especially those Avenger of Zendikar tokens doubling up on those landfall triggers. So, so I'd say about a third of the time you might just be able to win off the pure sheer number of tokens you've made with these cards. So
yeah,
pretty sweet. And, we're talking ETB, so we're also going to be doing a fair amount of blinking in blue, although it's not a big focus, but we've got Deadeye Navigator and Ghostly Flicker in the deck. Deadeye Navigator, obviously just an auto include whenever you're talking about ETBs and the color of blue. But Ghostly Flicker really neat in that it can grab two things, including lands. I had a moment where in my practice game where I had a landfall creature. I had a landfall creature out, and I had like Farhaven Elf and Yavimaya Granger, which is basically the same creature. So I Ghostly Flickered both of the elves. They went and got 4 lands, and then
because each one was double.
Because each one got 2 because of Yarok, and then that caused 8 landfall triggers for whatever.
Holy
I think the one
cow.
that it was the one that made the beast, the 4/4 beast.
Nested triggers.
Wild.
Just keep doubling with Yarok.
Yeah, it's really crazy. So Ghostly Flicker, and really nice instant speed thing here. Also can stop some removal. So protects your commander as well.
Wow.
Yeah, really nice.
Wow. Cool. And so we definitely have ways to mill ourselves, as we mentioned. One of those is Geralf's Mind Crusher. So Geralf's Mind Crusher enters, you mill yourself for 5 or 10 if you have Yarok. It's got Undying, so if you also have a Zoni, for example, you sack Geralf's Mind Crusher, it comes back with Undying and mills yourself for another 10. That's 20 cards in the graveyard. That's a lot of cards.
That is a lot.
I mean, you probably want to cast a Zoni after that happens, but and I'll just point out, Geralf's Mind Crusher, that's 5 power, 5 toughness, that matches Deadeye Navigator, that matches Avenger of Zendikar. So if we get one of those, we get the other 2.
That's and they're great. Either one of them, depending on what you're doing, is a great match for Deadeye Navigator. So I mean, basically every creature is in this deck. So milling is the name of the game. Like that's our main game plan. Milling and drawing. So Sidisi, Brew Tyrant, and Sage's Road Denizen are also going to help. Sidisi also giving you some incidental value in creating those zombies. Key thing is here, like a lot of these are different triggers, right? So Sidisi really loves it when you can hit a creature when you mill 2 off of the Sage's Road Denizen, or when you mill, even if you just mill 5 and 5 from the Mind Crusher, that's still 2 zombies you might get, right? Because those are 2 different triggers. So Sidisi, Brew Tyrant actually really good, helping us mill 6 when it enters, and then just keeping an eye out and getting you some more tokens and helping you with the defense going forward from there.
Great.
Sage's Road Denizen is very cool. We have a lot of blue creatures in the deck as well. Yeah, just want to mention that guy.
Yeah, and all those are doubled. So So I want to talk about Prime Speaker Zagana. So we've got a lot of creatures down there. Maybe our plant tokens are our biggest creatures on the battlefield because they've just gotten so huge.
Could be.
So Prime Speaker Zagana actually enters with the +1/+1 counter, so that part isn't doubled by Yarok because that itself isn't a trigger. That's just a characteristic of Zagana. Yeah. However, her draw trigger is doubled. So and again, in a deck that wants to mill itself, we don't care if you're drawing like way more cards than you thought and like, oh no, I have to discard a bunch. It's fine.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. I actually don't run. You could. You don't need to though. Run the stuff that like says you have no maximum hand size, because actually dumping it in your graveyard is you're pretty actually happy to do that because of the undergrowth stuff and all that kind of stuff. So yeah. Prime Speaker generally I found in this deck is going to be pretty easy to hit, like 4 and 5. So like you'll probably be able to draw 5 or 6 cards off of her, which if you have Yarok out is 10 to 12 cards. It's pretty wild.
Wow.
Pretty wild.
Another way we're going to draw cards was the Sire of Stagnation. I haven't played with this card in a while, but whenever it lands, people usually do stagnate on their land drops. They try not to play land drops, but that's okay. Like, if that's what your opponents want to do, that's fine. And if they decide, like, well, I got no choice, I got to play lands, cool. I'm drawing, because it's an interesting, because Yarok cares about permanents that you control, but the trigger is on a permanent you control. Yeah. Sire of Stagnation is the trigger. So although your opponents are playing lands, Sire triggers twice. So we're drawing 4 cards every time our opponents play a land. Ooh, if they got a fetch land, that's 8 cards.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they're probably, I guess, going to hold back on lands a bit if this guy comes out. But again, that's fine too. But there are going to be times when they just want that land, and you're going to draw 4 cards off of it. And if you get them down early, even on turn 6, I find people want to get more than 6 lands, right? So they're going to still be playing their lands if you can ramp them out. And
it's tough though, because like people will know. It's like, well, I can't just have you have 4 cards
right?
so that I can play 1 card. It just doesn't make sense.
Oof, it puts your opponents in a tough spot.
Yeah,
Bottom line.
And of course, I mean, we love drawing with Tatiova Benthic Druid. She's a classic, another blue creature, I'll remind you, for Sage's Row Denizen. But it's also, now we're getting 2 life and 2 cards for every land that we play. So again, nested triggers. If we're able to like get a creature that tutors up a land, that creature will tutor 2 lands, and Tatiova will trigger 4 times for 2 lands.
Yeah, that's right.
Gross.
And then if you want to get even more wild than that, if you want to talk about just doubling up the draws, Thought Reflection, it says if you draw a card, you draw 2 cards instead. So Tatiova will then trigger 4 times and draws 8 cards.
That's just too much.
If you have Thought Reflection. Yeah. So milling, drawing, I mean, these are key things, right? This is what we want to be doing. You're going to need to draw that you're going to need to try to draw that last card out of your deck. Draw when you have 0 cards in your library. That's the key. But if you also need to make sure you have those key cards, your Laboratory Maniac, your Jace, you need to have them. And a lot of times they can get milled. And so, or maybe, I don't know, you played them and someone killed them. You need to get them back right away. A couple ways we can do it. Classic way, Eternal Witness. Obviously, this guy enters the battlefield. She gets you back a card. That's great. Tameo, Collector of Tales, does a similar thing. Really, Tameo's in here for the -3. Play this as a 4 mana kind of regrowth. There is some added value in the +1 as well, but I think generally Tameo is going to get attacked pretty hard. So unless you have a good way to defend her, I wouldn't play her earlier than that. And but she does have that added value, which is why you play this over like regrowth or something. And Possess Scab is a really good one. 3 and Demir for the 3/2 that gets us back a instant sorcery or creature from our graveyard to our hand. If it dies, you exile it, so that's a bummer. But actually, being able to Ghostly Flicker or Deadeye Navigator, this is really great. And even just playing it from your hand and getting 2 triggers with Yarok is just very, very good.
Yeah, wow. And then we already mentioned, but our win cons are Lab Maniac and Jace, Wielder of Mysteries. They both have the text that if you would draw while your library is empty, you win instead of lose. Lab Maniac's just a 2/2 for 3, hanging around.
Yep.
And Jace himself has extra mill and dig, so you can +1 him to get 3 cards deeper, because we're going to pick ourselves. And that -8, I think it's important to note that you can minus Jace on 8, even though Jace will be gone and his static will be gone, because part of his -8 includes that you would win the game if you would draw from an empty library.
Yes, absolutely. Very important to know. And I will say this, like, unlike Tameo and even unlike Laboratory Maniac, you can actually play Jace earlier in the game and just have him come down and draw you some cards and mill you a bit. And if they kill him, generally it's actually kind of okay, because you're probably going to run into some way of recursion. We've got even more. We've got like the Phyrexian creature that comes in and brings a creature back. You pay life. We've also got Command the Dread Horde. We've got a lot of good recursion in the deck. So I'm generally pretty happy having, especially early in the game, having one of these win conditions in our graveyard just sitting there waiting for it to be recurred. So feel free to run Jace out to get some card draw value and stuff.
Nice.
Great.
Any surprises and discoveries?
Yeah, kind of like a pseudo discovery, more of a surprise. It's Underrealm Lich. It's a mythic from Guilds of Ravnica that I haven't played with or seen very much yet. I'm sure there's lots of Commander players out there who are aware of this card, but if you kind of forgot about it like I did since that set came out, it's really great. It says that if you would draw a card, you instead look at the top 3 cards, you put 1 in your hand and the rest into your graveyard. There is nothing more desirable for this deck than this ability. You want to have the selection, but also be milling yourself at the same time. It replaces card draws. Instead of drawing a card, you're basically getting through 3 in your library, which is getting us closer to milling ourselves, which is exactly what we want. It's unbelievable. It also has the ability to pay 4 life and just make it indestructible. So getting rid of this card is very difficult. And Sean, you pointed out a very interesting conundrum you might get yourself into with this card.
Underrealm Lich's effect is a replacement ability for your draw step. So you're technically not drawing cards anymore while Underrealm Lich is on. So you cannot lose or win the game by trying to draw from an empty library because you will never draw. So if your library becomes empty and Underrealm Lich is on here, you better have a sack outlet or hope someone's foolish enough to attack into it, because you just are you're stuck there just being like, oh, I guess I'll just sit here and I'll try to, instead of draw, I will look at the top 3. Oh, look, 0, and I guess I'll do nothing and pass the turn.
Yeah, again, you'll have one of your sack outlets and or have something in your hand that can like kill it or something. I don't know.
Ideally, I mean, if you've been regrowing,
you get to set it up, right? Like you get to know what you're doing. So as long as you know that, which I'm glad you are telling us all about it now, including myself. You should keep that in mind for Underrealm Lich. It is very important, actually. Great. Okay, yeah, but it's a really good card. Really, really awesome.
Cool. Let's do the budget report.
Yeah, let's do it.
Which of the cards want to go to the graveyard because of money, or which ones want to go in our wallet?
Ooh, well, I'll tell you what. They all want to go in the wallet and help us win the game. This budget report hits at around $130, but like most often on this show, it is very, very easy to get this sub 100, including the fact that we don't usually count the commander in the budget, just because, like, it's the format's new. Maybe you went to a pre-release and you got this guy in your pack, or maybe you did your first draft and you pulled this guy and you wanted to build a deck around it. So if you already have this card, obviously you're saving about $12-13 right there. And then looking at the actual cards, the most expensive card in the deck is Baleful Strix, which is about $750, which is, I know this card used to be expensive, then it got reprinted and kind of came down in price, but now it's back up. You can find it some places for like $5, but $750 is a lot. Panharmonicon's also in the deck for $7, and then you've got Dragonlord Silumgar also coming in around $7, just under, around like $6.75 or so. These are all cards. The 2 flyers are great because we did need flying defense in this deck. It was one of the weaknesses. There are definitely other flyers, even with Death Touch, that we can replace these with.
Oh goodness!
Right?
Why not put like a Stinkweed Imp? Now we're starting to. It is in there. Great.
Is in the deck for sure.
I mean, we've got there's flash creatures that have reach and Death Touch.
I think there's even a few. There's like one really good one in M20. I think that might even have an enter the battlefield ability.
Oh, the blue-white one, the blue-black one that lets you loot when it enters the battlefield.
There's a black flyer that has Death Touch that has a cool ability, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and as I was going, I was kind of eyeballing some cards, right? Like, I mean, Dragonlord Silumgar, excellent ETB ability, but we can find others. Even something like, if you want to think about budget, Avenger of Zendikar is like $5-6. Like, it's incredible, but there are plenty of creatures with great ETB abilities we could substitute. Eternal Witness, trade that in for Regrowth. You save $5 right there. Like, it's like there's lots of stuff we could do just get.
You're missing out on the ETB effects if you do that. That's
missing
the
out
reason.
on some.
I would,
but I guess my whole point is like we'll trade in Avenger of Zendikar for another ETB creature that is not quite the best at the game at this, right? Like between Ishkana and Azoni, like we're getting tons of tokens those ways.
Yeah.
Like Eternal Witness, okay, we're not getting 2 with a regrowth, but we'll get 1 with a regrowth. Like pretty good. Like that's still a fair
I
move.
do not recommend taking out Eternal Witness. I just
I mean no one like
abide.
yeah, sure. Everyone should run Eternal Witness and Mana Crypt and Mana Vault. Like those are the
I'll be
if
honest.
you have those cards, you should run them.
Listen,
but
I'll be honest, you're actually right. In fact, like Gravedigger basically does the same thing in this deck.
Yeah, right.
Because everything's good as a creature, you're probably just as good running. Actually, we do run Gravedigger in this deck, so you like
there's
another
one flyer that does it. Carrion Imp.
Yeah, like
if we want a flying blocker.
Yeah, so like really, honestly, you're right. Running something that just gets, it's just that being able to get Jace was a key thing. But you're right.
Sure.
Creatures just as good, basically.
Yeah, and so all we're talking about is there's probably $60 in the deck here that's just pure efficiency.
Yeah.
So if you're willing to knock that back a peg or two, then you can get this down to a $60-70 deck, I bet.
Yep, I think you're right. and still have it be very fun and very effective. That's for sure.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, let's talk about. Oh yeah, and Panharmonicon. You don't need to double up. I do like redundancy in decks, but it's so efficient and actually I think you if you want to save that $7, just put in like another thing that gives your commander hexproof. That would be probably just as good. Let's talk about our favorite cards. Mine is the big Dragon Maze enchantment, Dead Bridge Chant, for black, green for the enchantment. It mills you for 10 when it comes in, and then on your upkeep, you get something random from your graveyard either to your hand, or if it's a creature, directly to the battlefield. So this card is so fun. It mills you for 20 if you have Yarok. It just gets it going. It's really, really solid.
Great.
I love it.
It's great. My favorite is to talk about like deck power for a second. This is a great ramp spell for a medium power meta, and that's why I picked this card. Colony Heart Expedition. It doesn't get you those 2 lands right away. I mean, and if we're getting double landfall triggers with Yarok, it really only changes it from 2 lands, from 3 to 2. Right? Like you can't, like 2 lands gets you 4 counters with Yarok, but 3 lands gets you 3 counters without. And all you need is 3 for this to matter. 4 does nothing. So like it's one of those cards, it's very efficient mana wise. It's just a little bit slower. So in metas that are not blazing fast, this is perfect ramp.
Mm-hmm. It's good. It is solid. Getting the 2 lands to enter the battlefield with any landfall is also pretty sweet.
Yeah,
I
also love the move. I also love like playing this like on turn 3. It's like, okay, I'll play Colony Heart, then I'll play my 3rd land, and it's already got one on it.
Already got one. You're ready to go. I had a thing in one of the practice games where I played this, dropped a land, next turn played Yarok, played a land, bam, ready to go.
Yeah, amazing.
It was sweet. Yarok's 5 mana, which is not bad. It's not super cheap or anything, but it's like it's still pretty affordable. Ramp once or twice and you get it really early. Great. What a very fun deck. A lot of triggers. Make sure you listen to the CB vlog that comes out this week, because there's going to be talking about how to keep track of the triggers, which you're definitely going to want to do with this deck.
There's a
lot of them. Make sure you're talking them out. You're letting people know about them. Yeah, it's going to be very important. But this one was a lot of fun to do. We'll see everyone next week. Be sure to check out Battle of the Brews when we actually play this, which is coming up soon as well.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Big thanks to all our patrons who make these episodes possible.
Yeah, and if you want to check out more comedy videos, check out our Brews News playlist.
Make sure you follow us on Twitch TV to see when we play live.
If you want to chat with us, head over to Twitter. We're at Commanders Brew.
And please hit subscribe to ding the bell and find out when we got new stuff coming out.
See you next time.
Bye.